The weight of words. There are things that wise men never say, not because they fear judgment, but because they understand the power of silence. In a world that glorifies noise, where everyone wants to be heard, to be seen to prove something, the intelligent man walks differently. He doesn't waste his breath explaining, defending, or bragging. His words are few, but his presence says more than most men ever could with 1,000 speeches. Every time he opens his mouth, he knows he's revealing his mind. And so he chooses his words the way a warrior chooses his weapons, carefully, deliberately, only when necessary. Because words can betray you. They can expose your weakness, your ego, your fear. They can make you look foolish even when you think you're sounding wise. An intelligent man understands this. He has learned through experience, through failure, through pain, that silence is not emptiness. It's strength. It's control. It's power. In this world full of opinions, arguments, and noise, the intelligent man stands apart. He knows that what you don't say often matters more than what you do. So today, let's uncover the 6 things an intelligent man never says. Not because he's arrogant, but because he's aware of how fragile ego is, how rare humility has become, and how true strength lies not in speaking more, but in speaking less. Let's begin. Point 1, it's not my fault. There's a certain kind of man who, when life strikes him down, immediately looks for someone to blame. The economy, his parents, his boss, the government, anyone but himself. You've met this man before, perhaps you've even been him once. He walks through life believing he's a victim of circumstance, that the universe owes him something, that the world conspired to keep him small. He says, it's not my fault, as if those 4 words could wash away his failures. But an intelligent man knows better. He has learned, often the hard way, that blaming others is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. There's a story of a soldier returning from war who found his home burned to ashes. Everything he owned was gone. His family scattered, his future uncertain, when his friend found him staring at the ruins and asked, "What will you do now?" The soldier simply said, "I'll rebuild." No anger, no blame, no self-pity, just resolve. That's the difference between the ordinary and the wise. The ordinary man blames. The intelligent man adapts. The Stoics taught this thousands of years ago, that you may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. When an intelligent man faces failure, he doesn't look outward, he looks inward. He asks, what did this teach me? What can I do better next time? Because every situation, no matter how cruel, holds a lesson if you're brave enough to look for it. Saying it's not my fault may feel comforting in the moment. It protects your ego, but it also chains you to helplessness. You can't change what you refuse to take responsibility for. The intelligent man knows that owning his mistakes doesn't make him weak. It makes him dangerous. Because once you take full responsibility, you take full control. No one can manipulate you with guilt. No one can shame you with failure. You become untouchable, not because the world is easy, but because you've stopped expecting it to be. So the next time life knocks you down, resist the urge to say, "It's not my fault." Instead, whisper to yourself, "It's my responsibility." Because that's where true intelligence begins, not in knowing everything, but in owning everything that shapes you. Point 2, I already know that. There's a quiet arrogance that hides inside those 4 words. I already know that. They sound harmless and even confident, but to the intelligent man they are poison. Because the moment you believe you already know, you stop learning. There's a story of a young student who once approached a wise monk, asking to be taught the secrets of wisdom. The monk poured him a cup of tea. Slowly at first, then faster, until the cup overflowed. The student shouted, "Stop! It's already full." The monk smiled and said, "Exactly. You cannot receive knowledge if your cup is already full." That's what happens when a man says, "I already know that." His mind overflows with ego. He shuts the door on growth. He stops listening, and when a man stops listening, he starts dying. The intelligent man understands that wisdom is not a destination, it's a discipline. He knows that even the simplest truth, when looked at again, can reveal something deeper. He approaches every moment like a student, not a master. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruled the most powerful empire on earth. Yet every morning, he wrote reminders to himself like a humble apprentice. You're not wise yet. Remember your flaws. Be ready to learn. Imagine that, the most powerful man in the world, telling himself he still had more to learn. The foolish man believes experience is the same as understanding, but the intelligent man knows that every experience can be revisited, every idea re-examined. He listens even when he thinks he's heard it before, because sometimes wisdom doesn't come from new words. It comes from hearing the same truth when your soul is finally ready to receive it. When you say, "I already know that," you protect your ego. When you say, "Tell me more," you feed your mind. The intelligent man doesn't chase the appearance of knowledge. He chases depth. He doesn't flaunt what he knows, he tests it. He asks questions that humble him, that stretch him, that sometimes make him uncomfortable, because discomfort is where growth lives. So he listens, to strangers, to enemies, to children, to silence. He finds wisdom in unexpected places because his mind is open enough to see it. Remember, pride makes you blind, but humility gives you vision. The man who knows everything learns nothing, but the man who listens learns from everything. So the next time you hear something you think you already know, pause, breathe, and instead of dismissing it, ask yourself, what new layer can I see this time? Because wisdom isn't in knowing more, it's in seeing deeper. And that is what separates the intelligent from the ignorant. Point 3, I don't care what people think. There's a popular mantra today that says, I don't care what anyone thinks. It's shouted like a badge of freedom, as if caring is weakness, and indifference is power. But the intelligent man knows the truth. Those who scream, I don't care, often care the most, because real confidence doesn't need to announce itself, and indifference, when forced, is just another form of insecurity wearing a mask. There's a story of a philosopher who walked through the marketplace wearing torn clothes and muddy sandals. People laughed at him, whispering behind his back. He smiled and said, if I truly didn't care what they thought, I wouldn't need to prove it by dressing this way. That's the irony. The louder a man claims not to care, the more desperate he is to convince himself. An intelligent man, however, understands balance. He doesn't live to please others, but he also doesn't close his ears to wise voices. He knows that reputation, respect, and trust are currencies that matter, not for vanity but for honor. The Stoics taught that your character should speak for you, that your goal is not to be liked, but to be respected, not through rebellion, but through integrity. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if someone can show me I am mistaken, I will gladly change, and for I seek truth, not victory. That's what an intelligent man does. He listens, not to seek approval, but to seek understanding. He is immune to shallow judgment, but open to wise correction. When a fool says, I don't care what people think, what he really means is, I don't want to face criticism. He hides from discomfort and calls it strength. But strength is not in rejecting all opinions, it's in knowing which ones matter. The intelligent man listens to those who've earned the right to be heard. He weighs feedback like a craftsman examining his tools, carefully, intentionally. He doesn't let random noise from strangers shake him, but he also doesn't let his ego blind him to truth, because there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is quiet. Arrogance is loud. Confidence seeks growth. Arrogance seeks validation. The intelligent man has no need to say, I don't care. His actions prove it. His calm presence speaks it. He doesn't flinch at mockery, nor does he fight for approval. He simply moves, focused, grounded, free. So remember this. You don't have to care what everyone thinks, but you should care what the right people think. Those whose wisdom challenges you, whose honesty refines you, whose respect is worth earning. Because pretending not to care is easy. Living with self-respect is hard, and the intelligent man always chooses the harder path, the one that shapes character, not just image. Point 4. That's just who I am. There's a phrase that sounds like self-acceptance, but often hides self-limitation. That's just who I am. It's the phrase people use when they've stopped trying to grow, when they've made peace, not with who they truly are, but with who they've settled to be. An intelligent man never says that, because he knows identity isn't fixed and it's forged. Every day, with every choice, every action, every thought, there's a story of a blacksmith who, after decades of work, had hands covered in scars and burns. When asked if he ever regretted the pain, he smiled and said, this is who I became by refusing to stay who I was. That's what growth looks like, the constant reshaping of the self. The intelligent man doesn't cling to the comfort of old labels. He destroys them. When someone says, I'm just bad with people, or I'm not patient, or I'll never change, what they're really saying is, I don't want to do the hard work of evolving. It's not truth, it's resignation. The Stoics believed that nature designed us to improve, that every human being is capable of reason, discipline, and transformation. Epictetus was born a slave, beaten and broken, yet became one of the greatest philosophers in history. He never said, that's just who I am. He said, first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. An intelligent man knows this. Who you are today is not your final form. He doesn't let his past define his potential. He doesn't mistake habits for identity. He knows that every weakness can be reshaped into strength through effort, patience, and humility. Saying that's just who I am is easy. It absolves you from responsibility. It comforts your ego and protects you from failure. But it also locks you inside a cage built from your own excuses. The intelligent man doesn't use self-awareness as a shield. He uses it as a weapon. He studies his flaws not to justify them, but to outgrow them. He understands that change doesn't mean pretending. It means becoming. And becoming requires discomfort, honesty, and time. Every day life gives you a choice to defend who you are or to build who you could be. Most men defend. The intelligent man builds. So when he fails, he doesn't shrug and say, that's just who I am. He looks in the mirror and says, this is who I was. Tomorrow I'll be better. That's not arrogance. That's evolution. And that in the quiet, relentless pursuit of a better self is what separates a man of intelligence from a man of excuses. Point 5. I deserve better. Few phrases sound as empowering, yet secretly weaken the soul, and as I deserve better. It rolls off the tongue like strength, but beneath it hides something fragile, expectation, because the moment you believe you deserve something, you stop being grateful for what you have, and you stop working for what you want. An intelligent man never says, I deserve better. He says, I will become better. There's a story about a farmer whose crops were destroyed by a storm. His neighbor said, you didn't deserve that. The farmer smiled and replied, deserve has nothing to do with it. The storm doesn't choose. Then he picked up his tools and began replanting. That's wisdom, quiet, humble, immovable. He didn't waste his energy arguing with reality. He adapted to it. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed the universe owes you nothing. Not success, not love, not comfort. Everything you have is borrowed, and everything you lose was never truly yours. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, accept whatever comes, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could fit you better? To say I deserve better is to reject the lesson hidden inside hardship. It's to assume you're above the pain that shapes you. But an intelligent man knows that every difficulty carries the blueprint of his evolution. When life gives him less than he hoped for, he doesn't whine. He works. When people treat him unfairly, he doesn't say, I deserve respect. He earns it quietly, consistently, without complaint, because he understands life doesn't give you what you deserve. It gives you what you're prepared to handle. The intelligent man doesn't see struggle as injustice. He sees it as training. He knows every disappointment is an invitation to sharpen his character. Where others see misfortune, he sees the raw material of resilience. Entitlement weakens men. Gratitude strengthens them. Entitlement makes you bitter when the world doesn't bend to your will. Gratitude makes you powerful because it reminds you that you can always act, always improve, always build. So when life feels unfair, don't say I deserve better. Say I can do better. I can be better. That simple shift turns frustration into focus, anger into energy, and despair into discipline. The intelligent man doesn't measure life by fairness. He measures it by growth. He doesn't demand blessings. He becomes worthy of them. And when he finally receives something good, he doesn't see it as a reward he's owed, but as a gift he's earned through quiet persistence. Because in the end, what you deserve doesn't matter. What you build, that's what defines you. Point 6. I don't need anyone. There's a dangerous illusion that modern men love to wear. The illusion of complete independence. They say, I don't need anyone. They wear it like armor. But inside, that armor is hollow, because no man, no matter how strong, walks this life alone. The intelligent man understands this. He values solitude, but he doesn't worship isolation. He knows that strength is not in rejecting connection, but in mastering it. There's a story of a warrior who lived high in the mountains, far from all men. He trained in silence, hunted alone, and believed that needing others was weakness. Years passed. His body grew strong, but his spirit grew cold. One winter he fell ill. No one came. And for the first time he realized isolation wasn't power. It was prison. The Stoics taught that we are all part of the same whole, a living network of reason and humanity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the hive cannot be good for the bee." You are not a fortress. You are a bridge, and bridges are meant to connect. When a man says, "I don't need anyone," what he's really saying is, "I'm afraid to be disappointed again." He's built walls to protect himself, but those same walls keep him from growing. The intelligent man doesn't deny his need for others. He refines it. He doesn't seek validation from everyone. He chooses a few whose wisdom sharpens him, whose honesty challenges him, whose loyalty anchors him. He doesn't depend on people for his worth, but he depends on them for perspective. Because even the sharpest sword needs a stone to stay strong. There's no weakness in admitting you need others. There's only wisdom, because to need wisely is to live consciously. The man who isolates himself becomes blind to his own flaws, but the man who surrounds himself with truth becomes unstoppable. Even the Stoic masters, men of discipline and solitude, sought counsel, friendship, brotherhood. Epictetus taught his students in community. Seneca mentored through letters. Marcus Aurelius found strength in soldiers who believed beside him. None of them walked alone. So the intelligent man builds relationships with intention. He values loyalty over popularity, substance over small talk. He doesn't cling, but he also doesn't push away. He walks alone when he must, but never out of pride, because pride isolates. Wisdom connects. In the end, saying "I don't need anyone" doesn't make you strong, it makes you small. True strength is standing tall enough to lift others, and humble enough to let others lift you. The intelligent man knows he is not less for needing people. He is more because he chooses to need wisely. The measure of an intelligent man. In the end, intelligence isn't about how much you know. It's about how deeply you understand yourself, others, and the world around you. The intelligent man isn't the loudest in the room. He's the calm one, the grounded one, the one who doesn't react to everything, because he's learned that not everything deserves a reaction. He doesn't say, "It's not my fault." He takes responsibility.
He doesn't say, "I already know that."
He keeps learning. He doesn't say, "I don't care what people think." He listens, then decides. He doesn't say, "That's just who I am."
He evolves.
He doesn't say, "I deserve better." He works harder. And he never says, "I don't need anyone," because he understands that strength shared is strength multiplied. The intelligent man doesn't need to prove his wisdom. He embodies it in how he walks, speaks, and treats the world around him. His intelligence is not in his words, but in his silence. Not in his pride, but in his peace. Not in what he shows the world, but in what he conquers within. He knows that every day life will test him, and he welcomes it. Because the tests are not punishments, they're invitations. Invitations to practice patience, to master ego, to live with purpose. And so he moves, quietly, deliberately, without complaint. Not chasing validation, not fearing judgment, not needing to be seen, just living by one principle: to be better than he was yesterday. That's the true measure of intelligence, not in how much you speak, but in how much you understand. Not in what you demand from life, but in what you give back to it.